Scotia, has held an entire world captive. 6 men have died here. Fortunes measured in the tens of millions have been swallowed whole. And yet, the search continues relentlessly. Let's begin with what is said to have happened. According to the most popular version of the tale, in the summer of 1795, a teenager named Daniel McGinnis was exploring Oak Island when he noticed something strange: a circular depression in the ground beneath a large oak tree. Hanging from a sawn-off limb above the depression was an old ship's tackle box, the kind used to hoist cargo. McGinnis, fueled by local rumors of pirate treasure, particularly stories of the infamous Captain William Kidd, believed he had stumbled upon something extraordinary. He returned the next day with 2 friends, John Smith and Anthony Vaughan. Together they began to dig. At 2 feet, they hit a layer of flagstones, sourced from miles away. Below that, the earth was unusually soft, as if it had been disturbed before. Every 10 feet, they encountered a platform of oak logs laid horizontally across the shaft. At 30 feet, exhausted and out of resources, they gave up. The money pit was born. But here's the problem. Almost none of this is verifiable. The first written account of the Oak Island discovery didn't appear until 1857, 62 years after the alleged event. That account was brief and secondhand. The first detailed named version came in 1862, 67 years, followed by Mather B. Desbrizai's widely circulated 1870 book, History of the Lunenburg County. Desbrizai's source? Not the discoverers themselves. His information came from passed-down stories relayed by John Smith's daughter, Mary, who had worked in his household as a child. In other words, the gospel account of Oak Island is a childhood memory, passed down across decades, and inevitably embellished. Even the identities of the discoverers don't match the legend. Poll tax records show that Daniel McGinnis was 37 years old in 1795, not a teenager. John Smith was an adult landowner who purchased Lot 18, the site of the money pit, that same year. These were not boys on a treasure hunt. They were grown men, likely engaged in land speculation or farming. The tackle block? Never documented in any contemporaneous source. The flagstones? Unverified. The oak platforms every 10 feet? Mentioned only as vague marks in the earliest accounts, evolving into solid timber structures in later retellings. The foundation of the Oak Island legend is oral folklore, not historical fact. But if the story is questionable, why did the digging continue? For 8 years after 1795, nothing happened. Then around 1803, John Smith's wife fell ill and was attended by a physician named Dr. John Linz. Linz heard the story of the pit and became obsessed. He organized the first funded syndicate, the Onslow Company. This is where the modern myth truly begins. The Onslow team resumed digging at the 30-foot mark and pushed down to 90 feet. They reported finding oak platforms at regular 10 intervals, precisely matching the folklore. But they also claimed to find something new: exotic materials, charcoal at 40 feet, putty at 50 feet, coconut fiber at 60 feet. And at 90 feet, they allegedly discovered a flat stone bearing mysterious symbols, the legendary 90-foot stone. Then disaster. After removing the stone, the pit, which had been bone dry, suddenly flooded with seawater. Bailing proved useless. The water refilled as fast as they could pump it out. Thus was born the theory of the booby trap, an ingenious flood tunnel running from the shoreline to the pit, designed to protect whatever lay beneath. But was any of this real? The Onslow Company left almost no records. There are no surviving samples of the coconut fiber from their dig. The 90-foot stone? It vanished, but not before being used to sell shares in subsequent treasure companies. In 1849, the Truro Company arrived. They couldn't bail out the flooded pit, so they tried something new: drilling. Using a hand-operated pod auger, they bored down blindly through the water. At 98 feet, the drill struck wood, then dropped through a void, then struck more wood, then loose metal, then wood again. The interpretation was explosive. 2 wooden chests filled with treasure, separated by platforms. When the auger was retrieved, the foreman J.B. McCauley claimed it brought up 3 small links of gold chain. Physical proof at last. Or was it? The chain's provenance is murky. Some sources claim it was shown briefly, then vanished. No independent analysis was ever conducted, and yet, the single artifact seen by few, verified by none, became the cornerstone of belief for the next 170 years. Meanwhile, the 90-foot stone cycled through a bizarre afterlife. It was reportedly used as a fireplace stone, then displayed in a Halifax bookbindery while being used to attract investors. Multiple translations of its symbols appeared. Translation 1, 1893, attributed to Professor James Leach T. 10 feet below are 2 million pounds buried. This was largely dismissed at the time as a stock-selling gimmick. Translation 2, 1949. After decades of failure, a new translation appeared from Reverend A.T. Kempton. 40 feet below, 2 million pounds are buried. Notice the pattern? Each time treasure hunters dug deeper and found nothing, the stone's message conveniently changed to explain the failure. But in 1935, Harry W. Marshall, whose family had used the stone for decades in their bookbindery, swore under affidavit that it bore no inscription whatsoever. The most famous proof of Oak Island's treasure was likely Fabrication, designed to sell shares in failing companies. By the 1960s, Oak Island had claimed its share of failures. But it had not yet claimed lives, at least. Not in numbers that would birth a legend. That changed on August 17, 1965. Robert Restall, a former daredevil motorcyclist from Ontario, had moved his family to Oak Island in 1959. For 6 years, they lived in a 2-room shack, obsessed with solving the mystery. By 1965, his wife Mildred recalled, her husband felt he was very close to solving the mystery. He was not focused on the money pit, but on his own theory. He was working in a new 27-foot deep shaft near Smith's Cove, hoping to intercept and plug the flood tunnel. He was wrong. On that summer afternoon, Restall was checking a 27-foot shaft when he suddenly collapsed and fell into the water. His 24-year-old son Bobby saw his father fall and jumped in to save him. 2 other workers, Carl Grazer and Cyril Hiltz, followed. All 4 men died. The deaths are often cited as proof of the island's curse, a mysterious ancient gas, perhaps hydrogen sulfide. The coroner's report was unclear. Carbon monoxide poisoning from a gasoline-powered pump running at the surface. Not a curse, not mysterious gas, a preventable accident. Mildred Restall, who lost her husband and son that day, summed up the heartbreak. 5 years of watching my husband and oldest boy dig for a treasure they never found. Now it's all over. But the tragedy didn't end the hunt, it fueled it. The Restall tragedy was a key turning point for the modern era. The January 1965 Reader's Digest article that romanticized the hunt became the new inspirational artifact. It recruited the next generation of diggers. Dan Blankenship, a successful contractor from Florida, read that article, he shucked it all to move to the island. In his own words, "I handed the article over to my wife. I said, well, number one, there's treasure on Oak Island, and number two, I'm to be instrumental in getting it." That was the beginning. Decades later, Rick Legina read the exact same article as an 11-year-old boy. His personal saying perfectly captures the hold the island has on people. Once in, forever in. The self-perpetuating cycle was boosted by high-profile believers. Franklin D. Roosevelt, a one-time investor, supposedly followed the hunt his entire life, lending it presidential legitimacy. His theory? The pit held the lost crown jewels of Marie Antoinette. Other investors like actors John Wayne and Errol Flynn added their celebrity, transforming the local legend into a credible international venture. By the late 60s, the original money pit was unrecognizable, a 100-foot wide collapsed flooded crater, destroyed by decades of reckless excavation. Dan Blankenship believed the pit itself was a distraction. He wanted to find a back door, a hidden chamber or natural cavern. So he used his dowsing rods to choose the drill site. The most significant modern exploration of Oak Island was initiated by pseudoscience 2 L-shaped metal rods held in the hands of a believer. The rods led Blankenship to a spot 180 feet northeast of the money pit. Blankenship and his partners, David Tobias and the Triton Alliance, brought in a heavy 20-ton churn drill rig. Their plan was not to drill a small hole, but to sink a 28-inch wide, 160-foot-long steel pipe, a caisson straight down through the earth. This, they hoped, would create a stable, dry shaft sealing off the island's relentless water. The technical challenge was immense. The drill had to punch through the island's notoriously difficult geology. Over 100 feet of dense glacial clay, boulders, and loose sediment. Then, at a depth of 140 feet, the drill bit suddenly broke through. It had hit an empty space. The drill had punctured the roof of a cavern in the underlying bedrock. This was the hit the dowsing rods had predicted. The team pushed the steel casing down to 180 feet, but the shaft remained flooded, connected to the island's complex water table. The dry shaft was a failure, but the cavern was a major discovery. In August 1971, Blankenship lowered an underwater camera into the void. The grainy, murky footage showed something.
Coming up now is something that you haven't seen before this, and it's the bottom of an ounce in the middle of the screen. It appears to be the end of a short-handled pick, and it's leaning up against or standing upright on the end of what we think is also another
Blankenship and his team claimed to see a severed human hand, still covered in flesh, a human body, a wooden chest. But the camera's recording system failed. Only still photographs shot off a monitor screen remain, and those images are at best ambiguous. The most crucial testimony came from Parker Kennedy, a professional driller and a self-professed skeptic. Blankenship called him in to verify the image. Kennedy recalled, "He said, 'My God, Parker, there's a hand down there. I want you to see it.' But nevertheless, I saw the hand, like it was just hanging there and waving. And we all had the same impression. It was a hand when we saw it." Independent divers later entered the cavity. They found no evidence of anything artificial. The hand was identified as a rock. The chest was a rock. The tunnels were natural fissures in the limestone. What does science say about Oak Island? In 1995, the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution conducted an independent study. They pumped fluorescent dye into Borehole 10X and monitored the coastline at Smith's Cove, where the legendary flood tunnel supposedly emerged. No dye was ever detected. The conclusion was unambiguous. The flooding is caused by natural interaction between the island's freshwater lens and tidal pressure, not by man-made tunnels. Retired geologist Stephen Aitken reviewed decades of drilling data and reached the same conclusion. The Money Pit sits atop Windsor Group limestone and gypsum rock formations prone to dissolution and sinkhole formation. There is no treasure at the Money Pit, Aitken stated. It's a sinkhole. The oak platforms, layers of trees that fell into the depression over centuries, creating a natural stratigraphy. The coconut fiber, a common 18th and 19th century shipping material used for rope, insulation, and ship repair. Its presence on Oak Island, a hub of farming, shipbuilding, and salt production, is entirely mundane. And the charcoal, putty, and other exotic materials in the Money Pit, perfectly consistent with a pine tar kiln, an industrial operation for producing naval supplies. In 2014, the History Channel launched The Curse of Oak Island, starring brothers Rick and Marty Legina. The show has run for over a decade, drawing millions of viewers and reigniting global fascination with the mystery. Leginas have employed cutting-edge technology, sonar, seismic scans, advanced drilling, metal detection. They found artifacts, coins, tools, wood, and most famously, a lead cross, allegedly linked to the Knights Templar. Isotope analysis traced the cross's lead to medieval French mines, dating it to the 14th century. For believers, this is proof of Templar presence on Oak Island. For skeptics, it's a pilgrim souvenir, common trinket sold across Europe, easily carried to Nova Scotia by any 18th century settler. Despite 12+ seasons, no treasure has been confirmed. So what is Oak Island really? It's a drumlin, a sinkhole, a former site of tar production and salt works, a place where ambitious men dug holes, found ambiguous things, and told increasingly elaborate stories to attract investors. The 1795 discovery exists only as folklore. The tackle block and flagstones are unverified. The 90-foot stone was likely a sales gimmick, with fabricated translations. The gold chain has no provenance. The flood tunnels don't exist. The coconut fiber is mundane. The Money Pit is a natural sinkhole. And yet, the search continues. Why? Because Oak Island is not about treasure. It's about belief. It's about the human need to find meaning in mystery, to see patterns in chaos, to believe that just beyond reach lies something extraordinary. The treasure of Oak Island may never be found, but perhaps that's because it was never there to begin with. Thank you for staying with us. This project took a lot of effort to research and produce, and your support means everything. If you found this analysis insightful, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. It truly helps push our content further into the algorithm and allows us to continue telling these stories.